Good evening and welcome to NUFC with me, Steve Wraith, and it's Thursday night, and it is Supermac and Gibbo who join me tonight. Good evening, lads.
Good evening, Steve. Hiya, John.
Hi, boys.
Great to see you and great to share a stage with you last weekend. And I guess I just want to open tonight's show by saying a big thank you to all the people from the NUFC Matters community who came up and made themselves known to us on Saturday night, Malcolm.
Yeah, it was lovely, wasn't it?
Yeah. Great to meet so many people, John. I mean, a lot of people wanting your photograph as well, John.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and for me, having had lockdown, it was about the first time that I'd appeared in front of a live audience again, having lost all the talk-ins and the various shows we used to do, Steve, in the boxing shows as well as the football shows, and to appear in front of a live audience again is a lot of fun because you get an instant reaction, don't you? If I write the story, I might get a comment on the end if it's online, which I might see 2 days later or something. But the instant reaction of an audience is terrific, and I enjoyed it. And we had 8 of the best for telling stories all on stage at the one time in the end, and fabulous, absolutely terrific.
Sure. You could sense, couldn't you, with the audience that they were just so relieved to be out and about again and being entertained.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It was a great atmosphere, and thanks to everybody who was there that night. It made it quite special.
Yeah, certainly did. Great stuff. And once again, thanks to everyone who came along on the night. Okay, as always, lots of people want to talk about lots of different things. I've had quite a few questions already. I will give Bill Molden the first question of the night because it goes back in time and ties in a little bit with what we were talking about off air. Just to give the viewers an insight, I tend to fill the lads in about what's been going on the Big Match Revisited, which is on ITV4. And if you're of a certain vintage, you will probably enjoy these. You can be any age, really, because it's a flashback to days gone by when football was football, when centre forwards used to punch centre halves in the face, when tackling was a proper thing in football, when you could pass back to the goalkeeper and he could pick it up. Yes, all of these things actually used to happen. But it's a day when pitches weren't maintained and just covered in sand. And this week we saw Luton Town versus Newcastle from 1975, which Malcolm played in, and Gibbo was at reporting on, actually. And it's well worth a watch. ITV4, find it, set it to record every time it's on. You'll be watching some absolute classics and see some great Malcolm goals. But Bill Molden asked the question, and he said it's just a bit of fun. He says, "Can you ask Supermac and Gibbo what happened after Hereford beat us in the FA Cup?" He says it's a pointer for the weekend, hopefully. How did it? I mean, look, defeats aren't good. I'm going to come to you first, John, about it. I mean, what was it like from a journalist's point of view? You know, Newcastle playing Hereford, expected to get a result, and the invasion of the Parkers meant that Newcastle United had been knocked out by lower league opposition.
I mean, it was absolutely horrendous because I knew what was coming for us, that we were going to get pelters because Newcastle lost. And the actual game itself, you've got to remember, this took place on the Saturday when the next round was taking place because it had been postponed so often. And it was the game that made John Motson, who actually covered it and was only covering it as a Cub reporter. But because of the result, it was catapulted from the end of the programme on the Saturday night to the start of the programme. So he got so much more time than he expected to get. And it was the making of Motti. When I watched the game live from the side, what is often forgotten in these giant killings is that we actually battered Hereford but couldn't score. I mean, it was almost like shooting in. We were so much on top. And then when Malcolm scored with a terrific header with about, 10 minutes to go or something of that nature, I thought, about time, great, that'll do for me, we're through. And then, of course, the goal that's absolutely sickened me to death, Ronnie Radford's, simply because every time the third round of the FA Cup comes round, they show it on telly, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
he ran
every single year.
He hit the long distance shot. I mean, nobody had heard of him before that, and nobody heard of him since. And he's become ultra famous on that one shot. The interesting thing was that was the equaliser, of course. It took in the extra time. And the poor guy that scored the winning goal, Ricky George, got none of the headlines that were got by this guy because his shot was stupendous. And again, a famous nightclub story. Gibbo's always telling famous nightclub stories. The night before, being in the nightclub, and I was coming back from the nightclub, and so was this little guy. And we walked in to the hotel, and there was Jackie sitting having a coffee or something. Jackie Milburn, bless him. And he had a real pop at this lad because it was Ricky George. And he said, "What are you doing out in the nightclub the night before game, etc., etc.?" And Ricky George says, Hey, governor, he says, "I'm a taxi driver in London," he said. "I'm only sub the hour. I'm not going to get on. I'm trying to enjoy myself in the little moment we've got in the limelight." And then he goes on as a sub, does a little ballerina turn and sticks the ball past Willie McFall. The wonderful thing, in the way Bill was saying it, let's hope it's a pointer, was 1 week later. I haven't been ridiculous. And by the way, that game finished the career of Viv Busby at Newcastle because Joe had to do something. And after the game, he thought, "What the hell can I do?" And he thought, Viv Busby's on loan. He got pedalled straight back. His career was finished. And I think he might have put the crossover for Malcolm.
Yes, he did.
Goal.
Yeah, he did, John.
And it was
he was on loan from Luton Town.
Aye, and it was a finish. That was Viv finished it with Newcastle. 1 week later, we'll go down to Manchester United. Low best in Charlton. So good, there's a statue of the three of them outside Old Trafford now. They're that good. And we, who weren't good enough on the day to beat Hereford, took them up 2-0. And I remember Malcolm and the boys running out the chants of Hereford by a packed out Manchester United crowd. And the only thing that gives me any hope on Saturday is that the team with the best players don't always win, because Newcastle had the best players when they played the non-league side Hereford, who were part-timers, and we had Craig, Clark, Hibby, Tony Green, Supermac, Irving Nat. We had all the great first division players and lost. Then a week later, we go to Manchester United, who's got best, Law, and Charlton, and they lost.
Paddy Crerand and
that gives me hope for Saturday until I realise the Achilles heel. We're talking about this Newcastle United side on Saturday, and I don't fancy them greatly. I think it's no hope and bob hope, but we'll get round to that eventually. But big memories, Hereford and Manchester United, all within a week. For me, that week summed up Newcastle United's 130-year history. That's what they do, don't they? Plumb the depths 1 week, climb the mountain the next.
What's your views, Mal? I mean, it's it's a game, as you say, it just constantly gets played, and it was the making of John Motson, of course, as Gibbo rightly mentioned.
Yeah, it was a replay that turned into an absolute saga for us, having drawn at Newcastle. And if I remember rightly, I know Colin Addison was the player manager for Hereford. He scored from about 33 yards or something like that.
In the first game.
Yes, in the first game. Somebody, I don't know who scored the other goal for Hereford, but that was a long range one as well, I think. And so they were scoring from ridiculous ranges. And of course, Ronnie Radford's was from 30 yards. I was 2 yards behind him. I was about to tackle him when he shot. And I saw the flight of it, and I just thought, Willie McFall. My thoughts went to him and, Willie, don't even bother going for that. You'll get nowhere near it. It was like an exocet right into the top corner. But what might not be realised is what we went through previously between the first match and the replay. That we travelled down to Hereford about 3 or 4 times and back because each time it was postponed. And so it got to the stage where the FA said to Hereford, you've got to try and get it on every day. And so that meant that we had to stay down there. And we were staying in a hotel in Worcester, and we had originally gone down thinking it will be down for a couple of days. And of course, we finished up. I think it was a couple of weeks and more that we stayed there. So we were having to go out to men's clothes shops and buy underwear and shirts and what have you. And we found ourselves in this crazy situation. From this hotel in Worcester, we had to find a training ground. That was accomplished. But then we had to start travelling and playing games. And we travelled to Derby County and played, and then back to Worcester. We travelled to Southampton, played the game, back to Worcester. And they were constantly trying each and every day to get the game on. And it was postponed. And the FA were getting quite uppity about it. And it finished up being played on as you said, John, on the day of the next round. But when we arrived at the stadium, well, the ground, don't think you can call it a stadium. We just looked, and the whole pitch was covered in hay, and they were trying to warm it up. It was so frozen, and it was, and once they got the hay off, it was a quagmire through the middle, and out on the wings, it was like ice rinks. So it was the two extremes. So we couldn't get the studs in our boots in proper fashion, because when it's very soft and wet, you wear really long studs, and really when it's icy, you wear a different type of boot entirely. You wear a rubber sole boot with little rubber studs in it, and so the footwear that we were wearing. And of course, it was the same for Hereford as well. The footwear that we were actually wearing only suited part of the pitch. And so you had to be quite careful when you went out of that area. And me in particular, I had long studs. So because I was sort of centre forward, therefore pretty much through the middle. But I would find myself going out to the flanks quite regular. Oh my word! And and I was slipping over. My backside must have hit the ground 20 or 30 times during that game. And so the whole thing had been quite farcical all the way through. But nevertheless, one has to give credit to Hereford. It's not that they played particularly well, but by heavens, they scored 4 fantastic goals, absolute crackers. 2 in the first game, 2 in the second game, and hats off to them. They did ever so well. There was an irony that transpired after sometime after that game, that, as you mentioned, John, all the publicity went on Ronnie Radford, who scored that first goal, the equalising goal. And he, bless him, had so much attention thrown on him that just went on for weeks and weeks. National attention, local attention, newspapers wanted to do big stories and as follow-ups to the game. And and in the end, the fella had because he hated attention. He hated the lights on him. He just wanted to live a very quiet life, and he finished up having severe health problems, and which was a great shame for him. But some years later, it was about 20 years or so ago, I was contacted by a guy. He said, "I'm from Hereford Football Club." I said, "Oh, really? Wonderful." He said, "We wondered whether you might come down and do an after dinner." I went down and I did it, and I had the most wonderful evening with everybody. And all I could do was, in the after dinner speech that I did, I just took the Mickey out of myself, out of the Newcastle team and what have you, and just constantly praised Hereford's efforts. And I think they deserved it, because they really did keep going. And usually, if they play really well in the first game, come the replay, they collapse a little bit. But they didn't. They kept going. And obviously, we were a superior side, but it finished up, they scored the goals. So I've got nothing but praise for them. And it was an experience that just, we sat in the dressing room afterwards, I remember, and we were all just gaunt figures. We had just completely exhausted ourselves physically and mentally over this game and the conditions and what have you. And we sort of rallied from that. And on the bus home, we sort of said, right, whoever the next game is, we're going to get out there and absolutely stuff them. And this, and this fortitude just kept building through the week. And of course, we went to Man United, and we didn't just beat them; we actually completely outplayed them, outpossessed them, outran them, outfought them, and we were clear winners and well worthy of being clear winners on the day. I'm trying to remember who scored. I think John Tudor scored, and was it Stuart Barraclough? I don't think I scored that day, but my fellow two forwards did, I think. And boy, it was when we arrived. The bus arrived about 1:45. And there were crowds, huge crowds outside, and all around the coach. And they were just chanting Hereford, Hereford, Hereford. And for an hour and a quarter, that's all we heard. For an hour and a quarter, just solid Hereford, Hereford, Hereford. We were in the dressing room, and it was so loud out in the stadium that it was just coming through the concrete. And we just heard it solidly for an hour and a half. Hereford, Hereford, Hereford. But of course, what that did was just really wind us up to get out there and absolutely murder the opposition. And that's exactly what we did. But it was one hell of a day. Against Man United, one hell of a day. And where it was all jubilant stuff from Man United supporters, as the game started, it all started to decrease and decrease and decrease as we had all the possession and we were passing it about, and then we scored, and whoa, the volume just absolutely plummeted. And never really rose again. And I think by half time, they had absolutely just shut up. And of course, the Newcastle fans took over. And that was the real beauty of that afternoon. The Newcastle fans started to out-sing the sort of 57,000 Man United supporters.
Brilliant stuff. Great stuff. Always good to share your memories. I know that people watching always love hearing both of your stories about games gone by. But yeah, well worth a watch. ITV for the big match revisited. Some great goals, some great memories, some great haircuts. Something which I've never had to worry about. 25-man squad was announced today, chaps, and we have talked about it on previous shows. 4 goalkeepers included because of the ongoing scenario that we have with obviously Dubravka and Darlow. Crazy. And as somebody's quite rightly pointed out, this club does get worse. Darren Cowan says 25 man submitted. Wilson was in the squad twice at one point, and Woodman wasn't even named. This club gets worse by the day. Lee Taylor just wants to know what your thoughts are on the 4 keepers being involved, John.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is crazy because really you make a big decision, and you either leave out the guy that's injured, or because it's Dubravka, because Darlow's about ready to come back, you just ditch Gillespie, because the odds on you starting with Gillespie at any stage are very long, and you've got Langley as the cover keeper that's a kid in an emergency, which you wouldn't expect. But the difficulty is that was used as an excuse why we mightn't want somebody on loan, because would there be room for him in the squad with 4 keepers? That was just an excuse. But I don't know who we would put in the squad that's been left out if we went down to 3 keepers this time, because the kids like Elliot Anderson and that can qualify, don't they, through other means. But it's typical Newcastle United. And
John, sorry for interrupting. But as you were speaking, something came into my head, and it's this, because during this international break, Steve Bruce went away, and the club put out a statement with regards to the transfer policy, more or less saying that that Steve Bruce was making it all up and getting it all wrong and what have you. He knew the rules all the way through and exactly what there was to spend and what have you, and he shouldn't be complaining. Do you think putting this 25-man squad out with 4 goalkeepers is Steve Bruce's way of saying, see what you've done to me, this is all I've got?
No, because I think Steve Bruce has been on about the 4 goalkeepers for so flipping long, but I like your idea of it, Malcolm. I tell you what I think that statement, which we're talking about, did do. It hung Steve Bruce out to dry.
Yes, it did.
He was hung out to dry by his own boss, by his own owner, who he'd been so good to in the past, taking all the flack on behalf of the owner. And what has the reward been? He's been told, hey, you knew what was happening, etc., etc. Now, 3 things hit me with that statement. One, it was signed by nobody. Newcastle always going to hide behind the fact that here we are, we're having a dip, but it's not Mike Ashley and it's not Lee Charnley and etc., etc. So who is it? Uncle Tom Cobley? I mean, somebody's put out the statement. It is an absolute nonsense. And where Steve Bruce, for me, Malcolm, is really hung out to dry is that come tomorrow, when he does his press conference for Manchester United, he's got enough on his plate trying to explain how Newcastle have got a chance when Ronaldo's just signed for Man U. But he will now be cross-examined at length by the journos about what does he think of the club statement. And whatever answer he gives is damned, because if he toes the party line where, anything his lordship does is all right by me, he's going to be massacred by the fans who are going to say, you're gutless. You ought to be saying this is a disgrace. And if he says this is a disgrace, and I'm hugely disappointed, the fella that likes tapping people on the head's going to take a sledgehammer instead. Ashley is going to be very dischuffed. So whatever answers that is given by Steve Bruce in tomorrow's press conference is going to condemn him, and he would have enough problem with the press conference thinking about Manchester United without having to answer questions for the first time on Mike Ashley's statement. And can I just give one sentence that staggered me, guys, out of the Mike Ashley statement? It was said, running the club in a sustainable manner does not come at the expense of being ambitious. Who's he kidding?
What?
He said that running the club in a sustainable manner, which is what he says he does by not getting into debt, does not come at the expense of being ambitious. Well, that's exactly the expense that it does become. Yeah. He is totally unambitious because he wants to run the club in a sustainable manner. And because he does that, he's unambitious. I mean, how unambitious can you get in this summer when you wouldn't even allow one guy to come in on loan? It is absolutely ludicrous. And Steve Bruce has a right to think, what have I got for my loyalty and torn the party line for the last 2 years? He's just stuck me out there in front of a shooting gallery of supporters and said, he's thrown me in the time like Houdini, trussed up and said swim. And he can't.
Right. Well, tomorrow's press conference, I think if I was there and I was allowed to ask Steve Bruce one question.
That's why you're not there.
Yes. It would be that Mr. Bruce, in the team meeting that you must have already had with regards to the Manchester United game, the fact that Ronaldo has now signed for them, when you said who wants to mark Ronaldo, how many hands went up?
Yeah, I don't think any of the three central defenders would have been shooting their hand in the air. That's for certain. They would have all been looking behind them and saying, "We're passing them on to the goalkeeper." Freddie, it's your problem, pal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, I mean, Malcolm, I remember the last home game you met up with Rachel. We showed her photograph on the show. She is in hospital. She's got a bad chest infection. So if you, I don't know if you just want to send a message to Rachel because she's still in hospital. She's been in all week.
Oh, that's such a shame. Oh, Rachel, really feel for you on that. You don't deserve it at all, bless you. I hope you get well very, very soon and we see you back at St. James's. Oh dear, that's absolutely awful. Bless you.
It is all the best from us. I know everybody in the chat's asking after you as well, Rachel. So get well soon. Okay, big shout out to the sponsor, Spider VPN. Google Spider VPN, and you will find them at the top of the Google search list for all your internet security. Google Spider VPN to protect your passwords, your photographs, everything on your computer. Also, big thanks to skipsandbins.com who've stuck with us for another month. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors for sticking around again this month. 0191 389 7245. Darren Baldwin Funerals as well, 0191 478 273, or email Darren at darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk, and the website is the same address. Big shout out as well to John at qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle. He's in the chat tonight and he's given us a gift to give away, so keep your ears peeled. And to Jab Signature, the makers of all of our flyers, who's got his new boxing range out soon. Want to subscribe to the channel? Click on the Newcastle Legends badge and that's it. It's as simple as that. You are subscribed for free. Just click on it, click subscribe. Hit the thumbs up to like the video, very important. And click share to share the video to your other social media. Drop into comments to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. If you are on your podcasts and like your podcast. We are on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. Couple of shout outs for a few events that we've obviously got coming up over the next couple of months as well. I will be doing a live audience with Gavin Peacock on the 29th of October at the Irish Centre. It's a Newcastle launch of his book. NewcastleLegends.com is the place for tickets for that. £15 for the tickets. And the much awaited Christmas Do from 2020 featuring our very own Supermac in aid of the food bank, November the 19th. And because there's a bottle of wine there for Gibbo, I think Gibbo might pop along as well, have a natter with me and Malcolm and a few of you NUFC Matters crowd with it being in aid of the food bank. I'm sure we'll get John a bottle of wine and a taxi and he'll be in his element. So that should be a cracking night, 19th of November. Again, tickets are £12 in aid of the food bank. NewcastleLegends.com for your tickets for that. And on Friday, we will be announcing another event which we've got coming up before the turn of the year. Okay, John has provided us with... we've only got two of these. One is up for grabs for the food bank on my Twitter, just a one-off Supermac t-shirt, and the answer to a question, and I'm putting Malcolm on the spot here. Malcolm, can you give us a question for somebody to answer in the chat? John is going to give them that t-shirt if they get the question. The first person in the chat to get the question right. Can you give us a question about your career, and then we'll give an answer before the end of the program.
Okay. In my first season, I scored a lot of goals for Newcastle. I think I got about 28, 29. But I was beaten by one man. Who was it?
Okay.
In the whole of the country, is that, Malcolm?
Yes.
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 Great stuff. Great question. There we go then. We'll keep an eye on the answers coming in, and I'm sure we will get an answer, and I will keep putting them up on the screen, Malcolm, and you can let us know if you see it. I guess that's probably the way to do it. But it's anybody in the country, I guess. Okay, let's crack on with a few of the pointers and questions that people have given us over that. Go on, John. Go on, John.
Mention one thing, Steve, if I may. When we were talking about before the advert break, when we were talking about Steve Bruce being hung out to dry by the owner and consequently having this very dodgy press conference tomorrow, I just wondered as an afterthought what size birthday card Steve Bruce will have sent off today, because it's Mike Ashley's birthday today. It's Mike Ashley's birthday. Now, will the bouquet of flowers and the bottle of champagne in the 6x6 card have been wrapped on the door of Mr. Ashley this morning with a little note on the side saying, "Thank you so much for your kind thoughts while I was away on holiday. As a consequence, I will be pulling my teeth out with a pair of pliers at the press conference in the morning."
It sounds like you've put a bit of effort into this. Have you actually sent Mike a card?
What I've done for Mike's birthday is between me and the good Lord. And by the way, just in case anybody thinks I have, no, I'm flipping well haven't. I did send one message though, and it said, "Mike, if you want to do something nice because it is your birthday and you could relax and be a really nice person on your birthday, you could actually sell Newcastle and we would all be delighted, and you would have 50,000 supporters on your birthday saying thank you so much." 50,000 plus one, that one being Steve Bush, of course.
Yeah.
Right. Well done, Colin Wilson. He's come up with the right name.
Oh, well done, Colin! You've won the T-shirt, lad. Well done. And
Franny Lee.
Lee.
He got. I think he got 31 goals, 17 of which were penalties.
That was his nickname, Mal, wasn't it? Lee One Pen.
That's right.
It was Chinese. It was called Lee Wan Pen.
Yeah, that's right. And an irony of it is that because I mentioned in the last program meeting Puskas in Athens, he wasn't the only person that I met. I bumped into Franny Lee, who was on holiday at the same time in the same place, and we finished up going out for a meal together over there. And yeah, he was good company, and lovely lady, his wife, lovely. So yeah, that made it quite a holiday at the end of my first season for Newcastle.
Brilliant. Rachel says, thanks, Supermac and Steve. That means a lot. Thanks, everyone, for your good wishes once again. You do all cheer me up. So, yeah, get well soon. Yano says, why do you look to ridicule and criticise the club every single week? Yano, we don't. They do enough themselves. And I'll give you a perfect example. I, of course, have bought my ticket for Manchester United this weekend. Now, when it got to Wednesday and I hadn't received my ticket, I decided to email the box office. I emailed the box office, and to be fair, I got a reply quite quickly just to say that they actually sent me ticket to somebody else. Now, it turns out that this person used to be in an old friends and family group, which I used to go to away games with these people over 10 years ago. And when the website was changed over and I went into the back end of it, and I'm quite meticulous with these things, I did go into the back end of the website and make sure that I wasn't in any friends and family groups that I shouldn't be. And I am only in a friends and family group with my brother and my dad. So they've actually sent my ticket to somebody who I haven't seen for the best part of 10 years. Luckily, that person had the gumption and the common sense to send the ticket back on Monday when he notified the club that the ticket was coming back. So I actually got an email yesterday from the club to say that my ticket had been sent to somebody else and that I should go and get it off them. And if I didn't go and get it off them, it was my tough luck. That was more or less the gist of it. Luckily, the ticket then amazingly has reappeared at the club, and I went up to pick it up today. But honestly, we talked about this on the Fab 4 on Friday. The club's fallen apart, and we don't look to ridicule it. It's ridiculing itself because it's so badly managed. It's run on a skeleton staff, and it's not the staff's fault. It's the owner's fault because he's had people off on furlough. He's got agency staff in. The club's fallen to bits. We've sent the people who sent us in photographs on Friday of there's a hole in the 9-bar ceiling which has had water coming through it. There's a woman on the Platinum Club actually walked off the bar because there was no stock and the card machine stopped and they're not allowed to take cash. The place is falling to bits. There's complete mismanagement. I'm afraid, I make no apologies if you feel as if we'll have a pop. And we've got a manager whose only success in the Premier League is either taking clubs down or staying up by the skin of his teeth. You can't tell me that getting Hull City or somebody like that to the later stages of the FA Cup final is a successful Premier League manager. The guy shouldn't be a country mile anywhere near our football club. Neither should Mike Ashley. The place is a mess, and I'm sorry, but I'm just sick as a chip.
And also, Steve, he says, why do you look to ridicule and criticise? We're not ridiculing. It's the club that are ridiculing themselves by their behaviour. All we're doing is highlighting the ridiculous things that are going on there. That's all.
It's crazy. And I mean, look, I know, John, somebody stopped me in the street. I see loads of people when I'm out and about, because obviously I walk quite a lot of places, John. I still go out for fitness. And people say, Gibbo, they love the show and, they love listening to you two, talking about it. But a lot of people read your column, John. And they said you hit the nail spot on again this week,
Well, I mean, one of the things I've always said is that if you're going to be in my particular game, which is you're going to be a journalist, the first thing you should be is honest to yourself. You've got to tell it the way you see it, because that is what you're paid for, and that's what people read you for. And I've said this before in the past. I mean, when Steve Bruce was a player at Manchester United, and I had very close relationships with Wallsend Boys Club, which I've still got to this very day, I got to know Steve ever so well. He was a terrific lad, a quality player, and we had a close friendship. When he was first linked with the Newcastle job, I was desperate for him not to get it, because I knew that my job would be to tell the truth the way I saw the manager running the club. And I felt Steve Bruce wasn't the right man for Newcastle United, that I would have to come out and say that, and the relationship would be ended. He got the job because he wanted it, but then I was still going to say what I believe to be the truth, and have continued saying it, and I've sacrificed the relationship through saying it. But if I'm going to take the coin to talk to the Newcastle United fans, I've at least got to tell the truth. I don't think that, and there are some very famous Steve Bruce supporters in the media that love him as a bloke, but they sell their own soul and they sell the people that they're writing for by towing the Steve Bruce line. You've got to toe the Newcastle United line if you're reporting on Newcastle United. And I've tried to do that for 55 years now, and I will continue to do it. It doesn't mean I'm right, but it means that it's my opinion and it's my honest opinion. And I think a lot of fans can identify with that, as opposed to you saying what you think you should say, or saying what you think the club will not take objection to, whether that's Mike Ashley or the manager. And you do that so that you get more stories. Sorry, I'd rather tell the truth.
Well said, John. Absolutely, and that's why you are such a respected journalist, not just here in the Northeast, but generally around the country. And when when we see the situation that has gone on for the last 2 or 3 years, and this summer in particular, there are managers who would have resigned over the lack of funding, preventing the manager from strengthening when he's watching all the clubs, even the 3 promoted clubs from the Championship. They were bringing in hordes of players at huge cost by comparison to Newcastle, and Newcastle were just treading water as far as transfer were. There are a lot of managers who would have said, I can't tolerate this because you're not allowing me to do my job properly. And therefore, I have to leave. But there was no such thing from Steve Bruce, that's for sure. You know, no. He wasn't prepared to stand on a principle.
No, definitely not. Lots of people commenting on this, and Chris just says John's a cracking journalist, cracking points. A lot of us were talking about this on Friday as well. The Gallagher end, believe it or not, lads, has had a dead pigeon in the roof, in the netting for the last 3 years. I actually moved out of the Gallagher end over 3 years ago now. The dead pigeon was in the net. It's still there. And there was somebody's actually sent us a photo of it for Friday's programme. The dead pigeon is in there. It's going to get its own Twitter account. I'm pretty sure. But it's absolutely ludicrous. It really is. We have to laugh, because if we didn't, we'd cry, Malcolm. The club is going to rotten ruin. I mean, when I went up to the ticket office today, you don't tend to look at it in depth when you're up there going up to the game. But when there's nobody around, and you just start looking at things, just simple things haven't been cleaned or tidied, or it's like a dump, Malcolm. Yeah.
I can't disagree with you on that, Steve. And it's so sad to see what was a real great club, and it's sort of rotting away.
Yeah, Billy wants to know whether the pigeon was killed. Was the pigeon killed by one of Joe Linton's attempts on goals? Says Billy.
Well, only if the netting it was in was not behind the goal. Because he wouldn't have hit that netting. Absolutely no chance of that.
Dear me, how. Injury front, John, any updates? People asking us if Wilson, because I mean the rumour going round is that Wilson could be out for up to 4 weeks. Dubravka's out for another month. I mean the feedback and the whispers I've heard is Dubravka it's not good at all.
No.
And I'm I'm not breaking any medical secrets here, but there's clearly an issue, and that issue needs to be sorted out sooner rather than later. And the club, of course, will only be able to tell us what they can tell us. But with it being out for another month, hence the reason we've got the goalkeepers all in the squad.
But I mean, the way of doing things these days is so different from my days when I was working with Joe Harvey. When I was working with Joe Harvey, I would walk up to St. James's Park every single morning at 9:30, have a cup of tea with the groundsman in the groundsman's hut, and then at 10:15 go in and see Joe. Now, I saw him in a 1-on-1 situation. The Nationals, being morning papers, saw him at the lunchtime. As an evening paper, I saw him in a 1-on-1. But what you got for the fans then was a day-by-day report on the injury situation. Now, you don't get a solitary single word till the Friday press conference. Now, this last week, we haven't known what the situation is with Wilson. What is the situation with Fraser? How long is he going to be out for? We see him coming back in a moon boot and on crutches from playing for Scotland, and he always comes back injured after playing for Scotland. He missed the last 9 matches of last season after playing for Scotland. But we don't know what that situation is. We don't know what the Wilson situation is. We don't know for certain whether Almiron's banned or not banned for not going over to Paraguay.
Yeah.
We don't know the update on Shelby, and we mightn't want to know that, but we don't know it, etc., etc. So there's so many questions that are unanswered until tomorrow morning, and that's the eve of the game. And I find that very unacceptable. If there's a manager should release something daily, whether he speaks to the press or not, to keep the fans abreast of what the current... We are going into this match and we haven't a clue what the team might be that turns out of Manchester United.
You and Steve Bruce together.
Yes. Even though there's some people would say, what difference is it going to make? I mean, as we're saying with the 3 centre-halves, which one of you lads would like to mark Ronaldo? Well, I think that 2 of the 3 will instantly need to go to the toilet, so they won't be able to answer the question. And the third one will have collapsed on the floor in case it's him.
Give me 5 minutes with Ronaldo. I'll take him out the game for the lads. I'll do me bit. I'll get a red card for that.
By the way, may I say, Steve, as far as getting a red card's concerned, there's a few people that have tried that with Ronaldo. And the first time round, he was much quicker and cleverer than this time because he's 36. But you may well recall, you 2 guys, that Stephen Taylor tried to be desperate Dan with him at St. James's Park, and he was going to get a red card to finish him. And I tell you what, it was like a matador with a cape. Ronaldo just went, oops-a-daisy. Steve Taylor's lying on the floor, sticks a ball in the net. Ronaldo runs back, ruffles Taylor's hair as he goes past, and waits for the kickoff. So you've got it.
John, I have never seen a player humiliated so by another player.
You were sitting next to me that day, Malcolm. I remember.
Never seen anybody so humiliated on a football pitch as that.
Yeah, and Mark. Yeah. I'm just going to go through a couple of the comments because we've got some funny ones. Mark Byers says fully expects the dead pigeon to be gone from the Gallagher Malcolm next game and working behind the bar in the Platinum Club to replace the lads who walked out. Belly reckons that he's heard that they're going to fix the holes and cracks at St James's Park because Ashley's ordered some extra large posters to put over them. And Gary Milligan says breaking news. Sky Sports breaking news. Steve Bruce is talking to Ronnie O'Sullivan about a loan move before the game at the weekend because Bruce believes we'll need snookers by half time. Very, very good. Got some good comedians in the chat
tonight, mind, isn't it? Good
stuff. Yes.
It is. 10 minutes left. Let's just look at the England game quickly. Look, not a bad set of results. They were going for 6 in a row last night. They didn't quite make it. Poland are a good team, especially on their home pitch. They got a deserved equaliser for me. But great goal by Harry Kane. But it's more or less a formality, isn't it, for England getting to Qatar now? I think. Yeah,
I think so. And in all honesty, I think England have done absolutely terrifically. It annoys me when everybody starts criticising because Poland got a very late goal and made it a draw, and that England couldn't continue this run of wins. For heaven's sake, an away draw, that'll do for me. And particularly against what I thought was a very strong home side. Poland had very strong indeed, and by heavens, they didn't half work hard against England.
No, they did.
Yeah, they really worked hard.
Donald's right as well. Lewandowski, we knew he was going to be a handful, and he was again. And I mean, he set up the equaliser, of course.
Yes, he did. And well done them. It's always a bit galling to for a goal to go in against you in the dying minute, but it was well worked on their part, and I thought they looked a really strong side. That's the best I've seen them for a long while. But nevertheless, I watched the England side, and I just think this side, it's going to get better and better and better. And in all honesty, that over the last couple of games, if I had to say, well, where's a weak link? And I know he scored a terrific goal last night, but I thought that Harry Kane, his game's not anything like it should be, and I don't know whether he's sort of mentally rocked by not getting to Manchester City as he was hoping, or quite what it is. I really don't know, but he is not looking the player that he was all round. He seemed to almost struggle to get into a game at times.
Yeah, definitely. We've got quite a few comments coming in about the Man United game. We'll come to that in a minute. Bill says, don't know which game you were watching. I thought England dominated that against a very dirty Poland team. The ref was rubbish. Yeah, John, there was a little carry on.
I did. Sorry, I would question, yes, the referee's performance. Everything went to Poland, and yes, they were a very physical side, but it's a really good England side, so of course they're going to be physical. Poland, they always have been. It comes as quite natural to their game. England did dominate for long spells, and I'm saying it's a very, very good England side, but they're playing away, and that gives an advantage to Poland. And I saw Poland; they were absolutely jam-packing their penalty area when England were attacking, and then woof, they were up the field so quickly, and England played really, really well. But you have to sometimes just look at the opposition and say, yeah, they didn't do bad at all. And of course, they're physical. Poland always has been. It's always been a physical side. Dear me. If we go back to the 70s, they were really physical then, but they were a very good footballing side as well.
Yeah, the referee did have a bad game, John, and I mean there was that big melee, and I think the FA have now asked FIFA to investigate what caused that.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. But you've got to take everything in your stride, and I guess because I'm a cynical old Geordie, that I wait at the end of the day, and I've spent my whole career covering two football teams. One's Newcastle United, and the other was England in the World Cups, etc. Right throughout the career, and I look time and time again and say, are we jinxed or are we not? Because Newcastle United never win anything. In England, never win anything. 66 and 69 for both of them. England qualify well every time and then fall short in the finals. I want them to win something. I agree with Malcolm totally. I feel more optimistic now about England in the way the side's been playing and how close they've got to winning something recently than I have for years. But I'm waiting for the breakthrough. England winning something's a bit like waiting for the takeover at Newcastle United, you know. You get cynical eventually and say, it ain't going to happen, baby. Don't let us kid ourselves. It ain't going to happen. And I'm waiting for the day that the flag is planted in the centre circle at St. James's Park by the new owner, any new owner, and I'm waiting for the day for England to win something. And it would be nice. We've had the close. I mean, it's only a few months ago we were so optimistic about Newcastle being taken over, as we're so optimistic now about England winning something. But if I remember, it was 66, and if I remember with Newcastle, it was 69. So both's long overdue. Please, let's do something about it, and then get me on so I can crow. Because at the moment, I'm scared to push me luck and say, you know, you think the takeover will happen, you think England will win something, and oh, that's a pink pig flying past the window, you know?
Yeah. Great.
And also, I'm president of North Shields Football Club, as I've mentioned many times on this programme. And the grumble at North Shields is that they won the Amateur Cup in '69, but were completely overshadowed by Newcastle winning the Players' Cup.
That's right, absolutely correct. And funny enough, I was at both, Malcolm. I went to Wembley.
You went to
Wembley when North Shields won.
Yes.
And then Newcastle won. So that was because if you remember, the reason I went to Wembley was because Frank Brennan was the manager.
Yes, he was. Yes.
And that was a very big story for Newcastle United fans, because Brennan was the 50s hero sort of thing that was done down by the club and sent to North Shields because he opened a shop against the chairman.
Against the Seymours, yes.
The chairman having sports shops, there seems to be a sort of something, a trend there. The only difference was Stan Seymour, who had the sports shop back in the 50s, brought huge success to Newcastle, and Mike Ashley's brought 2 relegations. But otherwise, there's a similarity.
You just thought you'd throw that little one in.
Yeah, I just thought I would, mate.
Quick happy birthday, not to Mike Ashley, but to former players. Kevin Brock, it's his birthday today, and to Frank Clark as well. His birthday today as well. Another Newcastle legend from Malcolm's playing time, and of course infamously sold by Newcastle because they thought he was past it. Went on to win 2 European Cups in the league. So it just shows you what that bunch of directors at Newcastle knew at that particular time. But happy birthday to them anyway, and hope they've had a great day. Okay, we've put it off, gents. Ronaldo's return. I've got my ticket. You know what really gets on me wick, apart from them calling themselves United, because there's only one United and it's Newcastle, is the ticket's got the Theatre of Dreams on it. I really hate that sanctimonious rubbish. It's called Old Trafford, not the Theatre of Dreams, for God's sake. But the question is, Malcolm, is it going to be the stuff of nightmares at the weekend?
I've just got a horrible feeling about it. Ronaldo, he will want to go out and be 10 times better than he was in his Man United debut. the first time around, and imagine the effect it's going to have on all the other Man U players. They're going to want to get out on the pitch and play with this fella. My word, I think that Newcastle United are going to have to really play well, work hard, just to try and stay in the game. And if they get anything out of it, I should be totally congratulatory. But I just have a really horrible feeling. Ronaldo, he's just going to set the whole of Manchester off.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone for a cheeky 1-0 Joe Linton on my betting slip, John. 92 to 1, that is, according to Bet365. But we'll hear what the Toon Tipster's got to say tomorrow. But yeah, why not? Newcastle, always do the unexpected, John.
I'll tell you why not. I mean, you've always been a slate short of a full roof, I'm afraid. But, I mean, 1-0 to Newcastle's bad enough, but Joe Linton getting it, we're now getting quite silly. I mean,
and you only got 92 to 1.
I know. I was expecting
to 1.
I was expecting at least 150.
You know, when people say we've got 92 to 1, so it's a good bet because they're good odds. It's only a good bet if it comes up, you know. And it's no hope and Bob hope as far as Joe Linton scoring the winner at Manchester United tomorrow is concerned. And by the way, if you like, I'll show me Derriere and Phoenix window in Northumberland Street if we win 1-0 and Joe Linton scores a goal.
Dear me, I'll come and join you, John.
However, let's not. I mean, if we think about the match, guys, in its, the match to start with, it was hard enough going to Manchester United before Ronaldo signed, with all the good players have gone, before we were hit by a tidal wave of emotion, which is going to hit at 3 o'clock on Saturday because Ronaldo is back in there. It's like Moses turning back the Red Sea. Can Bushi standing there and tell the waves to part so we can walk through the centre and not get drowned? It is hard to say. So may I say just a couple of things? First of all, Ronaldo's record, 785 goals in 1,073 games, is slightly better than Joe Linton's, the whole of the Newcastle team put together, etc., etc. There's absolutely no question about that. We're going to face a different Ronaldo, though. From the Ronaldo we knew that played against us the first time, when he was essentially left winger, he was the high-stepping step-over king that Alan Saint-Maximin is now being today with his step-overs. He was that, but he killed teams completely. He is not that anymore. He plays out and out through the middle between the two posts. There will be long periods in the game where he goes missing because his style now, because he's 36-year-old, he's not going to run all over the shop and be exhausted by 36 minutes have gone. He will play between the posts. There will be a lot of time where he does nothing. You look at his last match he played, which was the Republic of Ireland against Portugal. They were 1 down and he scored in the 89th and 95th minute. Before he scored, he'd hardly been seen. And then he scored with 2 stupendous headers when he rose further than Wyn Davies to stick the ball in the net. And that's what he does. And that's the sort of game that he will play here. And my concern is that the Newcastle 3 centre-halves, and by the way, none of them will want to mark him, but they will be lulled into a sense of false security. The guy's gone missing. He ain't doing anything. We relax a little bit. It's subconscious. And all of a sudden he goes, rat-a-tat, and you're picking the ball out the net. And that's what could happen to Newcastle's defence. But let's look at it another way, guys. And I can understand it, the whole obsession in the build-up to this game nationally not in the north, is about Ronaldo, and it's bound to be. But if you're neutral, if we concentrate just on Ronaldo, we'll get done, mind. Not necessarily by Ronaldo, but we will get done. If a neutral, Mal, looks at this game, a neutral, just saying, what have we got here, and looks like for like, who's playing against who, I'll give you a few examples. It's Pogba against Sean Longstaff. It's Maguire against Lascelles. It's Greenwood compared with Almiron. It's Luke Shaw compared with Richie or Lewis. It's Sancho compared with Murphy. It's Varane, the new centre-half who cost 39 million from Real Madrid, compared to Shaw or Ferdinand. And even if we go to one of our assets for a goal-scoring midfielder, it's Bruno Fernandes compared to Joe Willock. In each of those cases, a neutral would say the tick is on the Manchester United side. Is Pogba better than Sean Longstaff? Is Maguire better than Lascelles? The tick is on the Manchester United side. And that's what we're facing, and that's taking Ronaldo out of the equation. So it is ultra tough. And you know what? That's why I have got people sick to death of hearing my voice over the last 4 games saying, where the hell's the win? Because this sort of match is coming up. Where the hell was the win against West Ham and Aston Villa and Burnley and Southampton? If we couldn't beat those 4 sides, what are the odds of us beating Manchester United?
Yeah, sad but true, John. I will jokingly put that bet on. You never know. Funnier things have happened. Look,
No, they haven't.
Prediction from you, John, before I go to Malcolm.
Oh, dear. Well, they're going to lose. And have we got to say by how many?
Yeah.
You're being cruel now. You're being absolutely
Do you think it's going to be that bad?
No, I think we're going to... I can't make a case out for us getting anything because, as I've said, the 4 games we've had, we haven't found a win. So we're going to find one in this game. The tide of emotion of Ronaldo in the stadium is going to sweep over us. I think if we lose 3-0, to a certain extent, you would think, well, we haven't been humiliated, but we lost. All I want out of this game is for each player to look inside himself and see how big his heart is and see how much he wants it and to see how much pride he's got. Let's play for our pride. Let's see what result comes after that. But let us not be humiliated. Let Newcastle fans come back from Old Trafford and on the way back say, hey, they had a pop. They were courageous. 2-0, 1-0, we'll take that. But they were courageous. Let us first do ourselves proud and let us not run up a white flag and then say afterwards, we're not good enough. We'll have to look at ourselves. We've heard all that before, haven't we? 3-0.
No, I totally agree on the white flag, John. This is a time for people to really show their mettle, and but even so, I just have the feeling that Ronaldo, he's going to go the whole works, and he's going and he'll be pulling everybody to go in and join him that's wearing a red shirt. You mentioned 3-0. I can see it being that at half time and doubling by the end of the game. It could finish up a bit of a cricket score. And
I can see that, Malcolm, but I desperately don't want to say it.
I know you don't, but you don't want to say it.
No, I don't. I don't. I want we to keep our pride, guys. And I think I want Steve to be right. But the pink pig in a paper hat is what I think about immediately when I think 1-0 Joe Linton. But my God, wouldn't I love... This would be the perfect time to be wrong.
Wouldn't it just?
Yeah, fingers crossed. The clock has beat us again. We've gone into a little bit of extra time. I'm back tomorrow. Now, we are live tomorrow with the Fab Four, but it's going to be 4 o'clock till 5:30 because I have my final boxing promotion as a boxing promoter tomorrow night. Finally hanging up my promoter's license after 9 years, 35 fights. Unfortunately, the regulations and rules really are making it impossible for small hall promoters to promote in the area anymore. I don't think Phil Jeffries will be too far behind us, but we will be on live 4 till 5:30 tomorrow with all your familiar favourites. And look forward to seeing you then. John, Malcolm, look forward to seeing you next weekend, next Thursday. Take care, lads.
Take care.
Good night, everyone.
Keep the faith despite everything, guys. Keep the faith.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself.